I've always been fascinated by games that give space for the player to be curious. Games like Outer Wilds, Disco Elysium, even Minecraft. Another game like this is Flux Empyrean, a game with a world lost to an endless ocean. You aren't given any answers to the questions you find waiting in the waves. To find them, you need to consider every last piece of information available to you. Now, before we start, a bit of context. This video will contain minor spoilers for Flux Empyrean. I made Flux Empyrean to leave space for curiosity and asking questions. In this video, we will be exploring just one of many questions posed by the game. Everything discussed is drawn from in-game material. We start our journey on a lone boat in a vast ocean. With no other context available to us, we look to the stars above for answers. Ancient sailors have used the constellations in the sky to anchor themselves to the world and to understand where they were, and we will do the same. In Flux Empyrean, the constellations are geostationary to the surface of the planet. The sky you see in one location will never change, but the sky in another location will be entirely different. Under a bird-shaped constellation, we find a location called the Star Study. It's a tall tower with almost wizardly vibe to it. There's a telescope inside looking up to the stars, a glowing blue crystal ball, and some discs. One of those discs contains a passage from a text called Fingerprints of a Rift. The author writes, "A great band across the sky where ideas flow more densely." This band, I believe, is caused by ideas flowing into reality. Whatever it is the source of all things. Interesting. The author of this text, Merlin, makes a bold claim. Is he right? Well, we really don't know anything about Merlin so far, let alone anything else about this world. Let's dig a bit deeper in the Star Study. The signs seem to suggest that this place perhaps once belonged to Merlin himself. We find another disc which holds the first passage of the text. Where do ideas flow from? Our world is made of ideas, a select set of them. But we can clearly see that more exist beyond this world. What is their source? So Merlin is claiming that the world is made of ideas which exist in the sky. On top of this, Merlin claims that there is a distinct band in the sky that we can see, and everything in the world came from it. Naturally, we should look to the stars for evidence for this thesis and see if we can see what he described. The sun is still hanging in the sky, but it soon sets, giving way to a blanket of stars, and sure enough, there it is, or at least something that might fit the bill. Across the sky, in a subtle but unmistakable line, there's a cluster of stars packed more tightly than anywhere else in the sky. If this is what Merlin was talking about, then we have an unsettling discrepancy in front of us. He spoke specifically of ideas floating in the sky, not stars. But we see only stars. What would an idea look like anyway? Let me introduce two possible theories to explain what we see. I'm going to use terminology we find in other in-game texts, so if a name seems random, know that it is based on something. The first theory is called Idealism, which states the following. The world is made of ideas. What we call stars are actually the ideas that make up the world. Because this is consistent with what Merlin seems to be saying, I'm going to label him as an idealist. His fundamental worldview is that the world is nothing more than a select set of ideas. Now for an alternate theory called realism. The realist theory exists more as a refutation of idealism rather than a theory itself. Essentially, the realist theory states, Merlin is not rooted enough in reality. Stars are stars, and the world is not made out of ideas. But which one is right? We know Merlin correctly identified a band of something in the sky, but what he claims that something is does not match what we see. Have we lost something in translation? Additionally, he doesn't provide much evidence at all explaining why the band is supposedly made of ideas. The idealism theory neatly ties everything together, but that doesn't mean it is correct. There's just not enough evidence to determine validity. The realism theory benefits from this, but again, that doesn't mean it's correct either. Just because we don't fully understand Merlin's reasoning doesn't mean Merlin's wrong. To find more evidence, we get back in our boat and sail off into the distance to see what we find. Eventually, we come across a monolithic telescope called the Skybase Observatory. It seems to be operating autonomously, tracking movement in the stars. At the observatory, we find a computer terminal. What we find inside it is fascinating. Downloading the contents of the terminal, we find a text called An Uncomfortable Reality. This text is critical. It provides an alternate account of the same band in the sky that Merlin described. The author of the text is someone named Stein. So, what do they have to say about it? After some analysis, we are confident that along the parallels axis, there's a faint, distinct ring of stars. The properties of this ring are notably different from the other stars in the sky. Whether or not Corrin was aware of this ring when the parallels were built is not yet clear. Okay, so there's a lot to unpack here. Stein clearly has a lot of connections that we don't have any information about. So I'm going to try and just focus in on what is relevant and what we do know. The obvious takeaway is that Stein agrees that there is a band of something in the sky. Interestingly, this time, Stein agrees exactly with what we see. It's a band of stars. But Stein does have more to say about this band. We do not yet have a strong theory that explains what we see here, but there are a few candidates. I would say they fall broadly into two categories: Umai-centric and anti-centric. The take you agree with depends on how you interpret two important facts. This is where things get interesting. Stein thinks the band is made of stars, but he also believes that this is just the beginning of the mystery. The star ring does not align with Umai in any significant way besides the parallels axis. Some say that due to this lack of alignment, it is evidence that the world is not centered on us. Others point to the stars in the ring. Based on observations, stars are evenly placed in density throughout the ring. This would only be the case if we were truly in the center of the ring. If we were at the side of the ring, one part of our sky would be more densely filled with stars. This will take a bit of interpretation to get something useful here. Firstly, what is Umai? Stein references it as both a theory and something to be aligned with. Based on the information available, it seems that Umai is, at the very least, something that is a good reference frame, like the magnetic field around Earth or the rings around Saturn. Stein leads us to an interesting place. Although Stein clearly doesn't think the way Merlin does, Stein is also not giving us any direct refutation of Merlin's idealism. Stein instead outlines two additional theories that involve the band and Umai, but seem to be about something else entirely. Stein asks the question, what is our place in the world? Taking a step back, let's analyze what we know and where theories fit in. We can confidently say that there is a band of something in the sky. To explain what it is, we now have three theories. Idealism. The world is made of ideas, and the stars in the band are those ideas. This is the easiest and cleanest theory, but it still has a lot of implicit assumptions. When we turn to our old realism theory, we realize we can adopt Stein's two theories and ground realism in something other than a refutation of idealism. Realism. The world is material and can be tested scientifically. Umai-centric realism. The world is centered around Umai. Anti-centric realism. The world is not centered around anything that we can notice. It seems that although realists like Stein think the world is knowable and testable, they still don't have all the answers. Some think that the evidence suggests that the universe centers around them, while others conclude that they had no special place in the universe. Even Stein admits this uncertainty. He writes, "I'm starting to think we on Umai are more special than the typical realist take would have you believe." We have three separate theories stemming from one observation, and we still don't have much evidence to prove any of them. But no need to worry. We've only explored two locations out of many on a vast ocean planet. Even if our initial dives produce more questions than answers, we'll find the truth about Flux Empyrean eventually. So, with nothing else to do, we sail off once again into the horizon. This time, we are visiting a location with a purpose, a location mentioned by Stein, a location we heard but know nothing about: the parallels. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to know what you're interested by and what you would want to dive deeper into.